And we are back with another episode of 2020 Range Days. My name is Dan Edwards, aka Canadan Golf on Twitter. And with me, as always, for the 2020 season is James Miles, aka J-Man. And I'm not even going to tell you what his social is this time because he made fun of me the last video we did. So,
J-Man_THP.
Welcome, James, to another great episode and one I am super excited about. I've been excited about since whenever we did this, which was way early on in 2020. We are talking about PXG's T and P irons.
Yes, of the 0311 line, they have the T, the P, and the XP, which we, depending on how you're watching this or listening to it, we have either already talked about the XP or you will be hearing about the XP very soon. But for this, we wanted to focus on the T and P specifically based on how you hit them.
Gen 3 release is a big deal. We had a great time experiencing each of the heads individually. And as you mentioned, we do have data on the XP, which will be digested at some point, hopefully by everyone who has a chance to watch this video. James, I know you're excited to talk tech about this one. So I'm going to kick the slide over to what their website information has on the Gen 3 0311 irons. Lay the groundwork for this video.
Well, there's actually a lot of tech in these. As you can tell by the images, for those of you who can see it, for those of you that can't, if you know PXG's marketing, you know that everything they do is very flamboyant, but it's also really good. The information that they provide on their irons is as solid and complete as anything we've seen and we have out there. So the big thing with the 0311s is what they're calling their impact reactor technology. Basically, their core system or their internal filling of the irons has become a two-part system. So they're referring to it as dual core. This is all about coefficient of restitution and trying to come up with an iron design that maintains the most energy when the ball hits the club face, because that's COR. If you ever heard that term, the amount lost is kind of what we talk about with it all. Basically, they've taken a really, 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 really thin face, which is 0.05 of an inch in thickness, which PXG claims to be the thinnest face of any golf club on the market. Backed in behind that is two cores. You have an inner core and an outer core. One material used to dampen and the other material specifically for providing that coefficient of restitution, keeping all the energy internal to it. The bigger part of this is, Dan, there's a lot that goes into this. These are a 5-piece forged body iron. So you have 8620 carbon steel. You have all the materials you would expect from an iron that, when not on sale, is $425 a club. It's all about CNC milling. It's all about precision down to the thousandths of an inch. And with the T and the P, we're actually getting, since we hit 6 irons at Club Champion, for those of you who have been to Club Champion and know that 6 iron is their iron of choice. In the T iron, it's 28 degrees of loft. In the P iron, it is 27 degrees of loft. And for you really, really geeky nerds like me out there, the difference between these two irons, when you're talking heel to toe, is 3.225 inches versus 3.365 inches, if you want to get down to specifics. Basically, the T is their highly skilled iron. It's their tour iron. And the P is the wide range players iron.
That was a lot of information to digest, and I think it's a great thing to have, because PXG as a whole, while is openly accessible to purchase for anyone from a get out there and hit it standpoint, it's a little bit more difficult. And we were lucky in 2020 to partner with Club Champion. We spent a couple days at their headquarters in Chicago hitting a ton of product. And fortunately for us and for THPers and those watching the video, PXG is a brand that they recognize well and fit for. So we had a wide variety of their heads that we had a chance to hit. And again, the range days concept has altered a little bit for 2020 because we had the accessibility to Club Champion and their universal adapter system. We had a chance to take every head, neutralize the variables by using a single shaft, moving from each head to create a more in sync experience between head to head from one individual golfer, which happens to be me. Now, James, we started this video. Well, we intentionally started this video by wanting to talk about the T irons. And I think it's a good opportunity for us to head to the Bay over at Club Champion headquarters and see 5 shots with the T irons. Was that heel side, James?
Give me a second. No, that was toe side.
Really?
Yep, toe down though, so that's why you're seeing part of the flight you saw off of it.
Yeah.
I do think also the last 2 irons you've hit sound considerably better than the first 2 you hit.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the 0211 has in store, which we'll be hitting next.
Whoa. Where do you feel like you caught that one?
I don't know. Toe? Heel?
Heel.
Yeah. I'm having a hard time mapping these heads.
I just enjoy quizzing you on where you feel like you hit it. It'll be a really good one to throw in for the conversation point. Now, hold on a sec. Something's not right. Hit another one.
That was way heel?
Way heel. According to this. So maybe we lost a dot?
No, they're all there.
Okay. Okay. I'm at that awkward angle. It's that chicken wing, Dan.
Yeah.
There you go. Now you live back out on the other side of it.
Yeah, I'm going to hit one more.
That's fine. I think that would be good on this. There you go.
And we are back looking down the line at PXG's 0311 Gen 3 T irons. Again, another opportunity, James, for me to remind golfers out there that I didn't get to pick these 5 shots. The 5 shots effectively picked me. We warm up with our club and then hit 5 straight shots. What goes into the data, as you laugh at me, is what we deal with. And in this case, we see a pretty tight dispersion, which tells me that I had a good time with these clubs.
Well, I mean, the shots that chose you here, as deep as that is, I like it. I'm going to start using it from now on to drive you nuts.
Yeah.
But for real, though, this was a good setup. We kind of had a feeling. Usually, whenever you move to a smaller profile iron, it works out well. We've talked about that a lot through the other range days. If you guys have been watching or listening to that, I mean, everybody has their best fits, but the beauty of this is getting to see everything. So to be able to settle down with these 2 profiles that really do sink in with you, I kind of saw what I expected to. The grouping here is consistent. And when we get a little deeper into the data, you're going to see that it is pretty much what I expected out of that as far as spin and launch and all those numbers.
So for those listening in on this Range Days episode, what you would be seeing if you're looking at the data with us is a tight grouping that is a slight fade off the tee. I wouldn't say it's too much more than maybe 5 to 8 yards, James, but I'm 100% guessing, and I hope I'm not wrong as we move into the data itself. So let's go ahead, and we're going to look, as we often do when we do multiple irons. We're in one video, we're going to look at 3 shots. It's not necessarily about the good or the bad. It's more or less just isolating some interesting data that we found. Now, I'm still wrapping my head around this one, James, and I really think that we might have missed a little dot on the foresight in terms of dotting the head.
As much as some people right now that are actually watching this are seeing it and going, oh my gosh, he missed one. The data. So for everybody that can't see it, what we have here on the first shot is an impact that is on the hosel, would you say?
A little chili dipper based on what we're looking at.
It's way in there. And I can assure you when we were there, those didn't happen. I would have recorded it and immortalized it forever had he shanked a shot. But I think we did lose a dot. And we were going through things rapid fire and working through. So it makes sense to us that way, especially when you look at the rest of the data. The data comes out good. I mean, you're not going to get 1.32 efficiency off of the hosel of a golf club.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say more because I'm sitting here baffled trying to justify it, especially from my perspective, because I'm not trying to say I defend myself during these videos, James, but I'm looking at this and I'm looking at in terms of the location on the head, and then I look at the efficiency, the ball speed, something is amiss here. But it was a fun one to add into the mix because between T and P, I didn't feel like I missed very much at all. And it was one of the few, and we actually saw another one relatively close to this one in the groupings, while the other three were pretty much right in the center of the head. So we'll assume this is a miss, James, and certainly the overall distance data would represent that to a point. But we are at 1.32 efficiency and right around 130 mile an hour of ball speed with some pretty good loft information as well.
Yeah, I mean, because and let's be real, if you really did miss one this badly, I would have never let you hear the end of it, just because the internet would demand that I give that to them. So there is, but the rest of the data from you and I going over it and looking at it, the rest of the data makes sense given what went on with it. So we kind of throw the impact location of this one out, as fun as it is to look at. Dynamic loft at 26 degrees, kind of what I expect more for you out of a more tour, as they call it, iron like this. We're talking about 28 degrees of standard loft on this iron. So that fits. Backspin getting close to that 6,000 mark. Again, kind of what you would expect out of a player style iron.
That's pretty good. It was lower than I was anticipating. And I know the UST Mamiya Recoil Proto shaft is not a slouch between launch and spin. But at the same time, it absolutely supports this premise that these irons are right in that tour realm from a launch and spin perspective, I think, overall. Would you agree?
No, I definitely would. I think that fits.
So as much as someone else hopefully is having fun looking at the potential that I shanked a ball, let's see, 181 yards.
Screenshot it.
Yeah. Let's move on to one of the more centralized shots, which is 1 millimeter towards the toe and 8 millimeters down. And I love that we isolated this one, James, because the spin has elevated quite a bit.
Yeah, I love that you led with 1 millimeter, just to throw that in there and make everything feel better.
That's what it says, man.
No, but this is the one that we want to see with it all. A much more solid strike. Your face is almost dead on at impact with it all, and our loft kind of comes down. We're in that 23.5 degree range of dynamic loft now, but your launch angle still hovers around 19. So with the spin, what we're going to see is we get the rest of the data, and we'll talk to everybody about a little bit later, is the peak heights are in your wheelhouse again. 132 mile an hour ball speed out of an iron in this profile, no matter what company makes it, is really, really good.
That's great. And I'm very happy with the efficiency numbers at 1.34. We don't oftentimes talk about my club head speed, but being at 98 mile an hour with a 6 iron makes me very, very happy. And the one thing that... Hold on, James. I am not patting myself on the back. It is one of those things where you're happy to see it when you see it.
It's good stuff.
The really one thing that I noticed based on our dispersion early on is that there was a really tight grouping and it was just a little bit right of center. Now, the last couple that we took a look at, 2.8 degrees toe down on this one, that's going to tell any good fitter that and I know this personally as well, that a very small tweak to my lie angle is going to really tighten up that line, and if anything, either go straight down the line or create a little bit of a draw experience, which is exactly what I'm looking for. With that in mind, James, and continue with the toe down experience, we're moving on to my third shot, which is worth discussing. This is the last shot I hit in the set, and I believe one of my best distanced shots, 4 millimeters towards the toe and 2 millimeters low. Now, you talked a lot about dynamic loft, and I think it's something you really gravitate towards. This one's different.
This one, we see a much bigger number over the overall, especially, I mean, for those, the last shot, we're talking about a 4 degree difference overall, thereabouts. So you're going to see a significant change in initial ball flight. Launch angle, though, doesn't alter as much because the spin stays down. This is the one that struck me because face is technically a little bit open to target, but we don't see any massive spin jumps. We actually see a really, really solid baseline number, which kind of, for me, being the tech geek and that part of it all, makes me think that there's a lot to this whole dual core system as far as what's going on with the face and when it's impacting and how much energy is being maintained to it all.
You know, I love that we are seeing quite a bit of variety, despite the fact that other than the aired shots, which we're still assuming are aired shots, we are seeing good variety in but we're also seeing quality, and it comes back down to when we looked downrange at these 5 shots, they didn't have a huge dispersion. And as we move into the overall club data itself, I was pretty close to that assumption that it was right around 8 yards in difference between the all 5 shots, with outside of the last shot that I shut the face down a little bit better on, I was in between 11 yards right and 16 yards right, which is quite tight.
Mm-hmm. I mean, overall, given the specs of the iron and what we could tweak, excuse me, what we could tweak if we had the time to, it's in the pattern that we want to see it. Also, with the story of it, I mean, some of the people watching right now or listening may go, well, he's had much bigger numbers with other irons. Well, yeah, but this is also a type of iron that's not based on producing huge distance numbers. Like that's not the goal. I mean, this is all about maximum workability, maximum stability, and finding a way to be consistent. And based on what we're seeing here, the consistency is there.
It's a big part when you talk about a precision iron like the 0311T from Gen 3. I really like to see that while I did have a couple small outliers at 126.5 and 128.9, that 130, 131, 132, the ball speeds are actually really quite close. And when you have an iron that reacts pretty directly with the way the contact is made, to hit 5 shots and be that close to one another, I think it's pretty appealing. Again, we're at worst 11 yards difference, and based on the fact that I don't think I hit the middle of the face 5 straight times, I'm quite pleased with that. I think these are going to be demanding clubs for golfers out there who are looking for demanding clubs. And the beauty of PXG's lineup is they actually have other options for those who are looking for that more uniform. If I miss, I miss. If I hit it great, I hit it great, and it's going to close that gap. I think these will punish you a little bit, but at the same time, their tech is validated by a lot of what we experienced here.
Yeah, I mean, and this is PXG kind of gets a lot of focus on just price, right? And right or wrong, depending on how you view it, whether they want it to be that way or not. I don't think enough onus is given to them, or credit is a better word, is given to them for the fact that especially in irons, from day one, they've had a really diverse lineup that covers the gamut.
That's well said. I think it's a great opportunity. I wanted to bring the club images back up, mostly because I wanted to showcase the fact that P, as you've already mentioned, versus T is not a significant change. Little subtle elements that have been altered by PXG, but really helps to blend that option base for golfers who are looking for something not quite tour level in size, or muscle backy, I suppose you could call it. That is a word I'm decided at this point.
I like it.
But they also don't want to go as far as to say, I want an oversized or slightly oversized club like XP that promotes some other elements and is more aggressive in lofting. And here we are with 0311P from Gen 3. James, you want to go check out some shots on the at Club Champion?
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Hey, James, do you like that one?
Yeah. So 5,700 spin, 43 peak, 197 carry. We're talking 136 ball speed out of a 6-iron. And getting through the ball.
Yeah, I'm getting.
Even that one with the spin jump, you're still talking 188 carry. You're fine. Hey, you basically found almost the same spot as the previous shot. Painting a picture on the club face. That's 3 shots stacked on the spot smaller than a dime. So, I mean, if you want to keep doing that, that's cool.
Okay. You want to miss one?
Nah. I mean, you can.
I'm going to miss one.
Which side?
Heel.
Okay. Yeah.
You want to hit one toe?
I mean, yeah, that was
You want me to hit one toe?
slight middle heel. Why not put one on the toe and see what happens? Call your shot.
might
Did you
not
get
be.
it? Did you hurt yourself?
No, that might be perfect. Well, I don't know.
No.
So here we are looking downrange. I am going to let you lead this one right into it because James, I've talked a lot about these irons for the last couple months. I was without a doubt enamored by the quality of this product. So lead us in, especially for those who are listening. What are we going to be looking at here?
So of all the irons that we hit when we were there, I think it's safe to say these were the biggest surprise to both of us. It was a surprise enough that after you hit them and then took a break, I went and grabbed the club and started hitting it. Even as broken as I was at the time, I wanted to hit it because what we were seeing was, for whatever reason, right, wrong, it was not what I expected. And for those of you that can't see the data here, we are seeing a slight little fade grouping towards the outside. And we've got, we've managed to pull a couple straight down the line. But the grouping as a whole, super playable. The bigger story was the ball speed that you were creating with all these consistently on this one. And then the sound, which I believe we will get into here in just a little bit.
So I'm not going to say anything. I like what you've said here. So let's go straight into, we have 3 shots we can talk about with the P version of 0311 from PXG. The first one was a little bit inside on the face. I think this was my second to last one. And just to paint a picture, we hit 3 pretty much on the button.
Mm-hmm.
And by we, I mean me. And
I was moral support.
It was kind of a giggle fest, James. And I think this is the appeal of getting fit for golf clubs. There is a product out there that will gel with your swing as a golfer, no matter what type of swing you have. And I think it's important to say that because this is one of those clubs that as soon as we connected it, I think I might have taken one practice swing and said, I don't even know if we need a practice swing. May as well just use that one. It was just instant for me. So this was when we were trying to like promote some of that heel side contact.
Yeah, this is when I was begging you to miss, basically, is the easiest way for us to put that. But it's true. So with the P, the biggest thing that stood out to me is the difference from the T to the P is much smaller than from the P to the XP. God, that's a lot of letters when we're talking about size and everything else. So this is kind of that sweet spot. And we've had a few irons that we've already discussed on range days and a few more that we are going to discuss on range days that kind of slot in that sweet spot of looks, right? I mean, the goal of PXG is to give you that sleek player's muscle backy. Was that your term?
Muscle backy, yep.
Muscle backy look.
Trademark.
But at the same trademark, Canada. But at the same time, it's going to let you get away with a little bit more. And these blend it better than I've seen a lot of irons. And the biggest thing for me is you're missing inside on the heel when we finally got you in on the heel like that. And we saw the fade we expected to see. You can obviously tell you got the club face is dead square on this one, which makes it the perfect illustration to see what these clubs are going to do across the face on a miss, if you will. So this fade is not because of an open club face. It's not because of an awkward lie angle. It's not because of any of these things. This is just when you catch it on the inside of the club face, you're going to see this kind of a ball flight out of it.
Yeah, and I love the picture you've painted for those listening to range days in this episode particularly. The one thing worth noting as I move towards the heel, even with this more player profile iron, is we are at 130 mile an hour ball speed. We are at 1.33 efficiency, and I think it's critical to make those notes as we move into the second shot, which was a little bit lower than center at 8 millimeters low and a little bit towards the toe. 3 millimeters. And again, this is 3 millimeters is not a large number, James, but what I noticed here is the efficiency does improve, which is great to see as you go towards the center of the club head at 1.33 mile an hour ball speed and 1.35 efficiency.
Yeah. So, I mean, and because I didn't mention it when we got into this, when we're talking about with the P's, it's 27 degrees is the set loft on the 6 iron for those of you, because I know some are really tuned into what the lofts are and what the lofts aren't. So we're not talking about a huge difference. It's 1 degree. 1 degree difference from the T's that we already talked about. So yeah, the dynamic loft has kind of shifted down a little bit. I think part of that is your comfort with the irons too. I mean, you were clearing through these really, really well. And when we go through the numbers and we continue to see that, we continue to see good angles from face, good angles from toe, 5,700 RPMs on a really well-struck shot that's hit 98 miles an hour on a 6-iron. That's really good swing speed wise and efficiency wise. You're getting the most out of a ball that's not dead center. It's a tiny bit low, but it's giving you numbers that you would want to see.
Well, let's kick it to our final shot. I believe this is my most efficient of the set, and this is where Giddy comes into play, James. At 5,800 RPMs a spin with 3.5 attack, so down into the ground a little bit, 24 degrees of loft, but we are at 136 mile an hour ball speed and 1.38 efficiency, which might be one of my best and most efficient clubs I had a chance to hit.
It was. It
really
definitely
goes.
Was.
It really goes to tell you just how much I enjoyed hitting these irons, and I think based on the fact, and we'll get into the comparisons later, it validates the opportunity for options for companies. The more, the better. And some people would look at T and P and say there's not enough of a difference to justify this iron. For my game, personally, I think there is a very clear winner between the two, and it's all about my game. And again, James, this is a little bit. I'm going to let you talk about it. Tell me about face impact on this and what your experience was when you read the data.
So, I mean, this is pretty flush. So to see it with the face a tiny bit closed, you're not seeing a whole lot of alteration on the ball flight from what we would have expected. Like we said, 24 degrees of lofted impact is pretty ideal for you in a 6-iron, based on numbers that we like to see out of you. 5,700 RPMs is going to play anywhere. Peak heights, which everybody will see or hear whenever we explain it to them here in just a little bit, is giving those descent angles that we still want to see. The biggest thing for me is I kind of want to touch on what you were getting into with options. Like, I think we lose sight of that sometimes. People like to say there's too many options, and just because it doesn't necessarily differentiate massively, it is going to differentiate for somebody. I mean, for you, the P was just it clicked. Does that mean you couldn't play the T? No, not at all. You could play the T just fine. But sometimes these things and the profile and the set of it just works. And here, with the way that you were clearing through on the face, it's just a profile and a weight and a balance and a look and everything that I think just meshed really well.
Well, let's take a look at the overall data, James, because we had talked a little bit about 57, 54, 5,700 RPMs a spin, and people might wonder, well, is there stopping power in an iron that spins that regard? But then you look at something like launch angle at an average of 19. You look at landing angle of over 50 degrees, and you look at something as peak height at over 40 yards. Yeah. That thing is not rolling through the green.
Well, and this is part of what, I mean, when we get the conversations we get on THP and we talk about a lot, we have from a lot of members who are still, I mean, what was the old saying was, for each iron, whatever it is, if it's a 6, you want 6,000 RPMs. If it's a 7, you want 7,000 RPMs, or it's not a good fit. And that's not it anymore. The tech has advanced past that. It just has. I mean, the fact that you're settling in here at your lowest at 5,400 RPM, but I'd also like to point out that's still a 50-degree descent angle. Like, that will hold any green. If you're hitting into concrete, it's going to have a good chance to stay on it. These are the numbers that matter more than just what the spin is. The whole picture is what matters.
What I love also, James, here while I'm looking at this data is we did have an outlier of 197 yards in that last shot, which I will say was purest of pure from my capabilities. Yes, mush, as you say. The other 4 shots were within, let's see, 4 yards of each other from a distance perspective. And in a profile like 0311P from Gen 3, that is a really tight dispersion.
I mean, you're talking 8 yards in, and I will still, this is, and the P means players. This is a player's profile. I don't want people to think, if you've not got to see the 0311 lineup, it's not the change that you get with some of the others. A lot of the other sets that have 3 irons in a lineup, the middle one is the middle. This leans way closer to the T than it does anything else. This is a player's profile. And if you're talking 8 yards of variance across it,
and there were some that were considered kind of missy in there. So for 8 yards, I mean, that was one of the best irons we saw dispersion wise the entire time we were at Club Champion in Chicago.
I agree. And I think it's worthy, considering we've already started to discuss the idea of options available. It's worthy to take a second to look at the T versus the P data right up against each other. For those listening, there is a difference of about 2 miles an hour for me between with P being superior to T. A little bit less spin on P, which I think is realistic based on the profiles and the design that is intended, and a little bit more yardage. But outside of that, James, I think you're looking at a lot of consistency between the two heads.
I think they slot where they're supposed to, honestly. I think the more small compact profile you get, no matter what's going on inside with the reactor tech and the dual core and everything else, it's still a small iron. So the amount of real estate for them to be able to shift and move around is limited. So we should see some slightly lower ball speeds. We should see a little bit more spin. We should see a distance that's not necessarily as high. But at the same time, whenever you go just based on the averages, a 5-yard difference between these two slots pretty well.
I think you're right. And I hope that this gives people an opportunity to say, you know what, PXG does have products that are of interest, and they don't need to be afraid to go hit them. They might be surprised at what they experience. Personally, for me, it was an eye-opening experience, especially when it comes down to P, which ends up becoming one of my preferred irons from a personal perspective. PXG also has a number of options available beyond T and P. I think it's worth golfers, and I hope for those who do enjoy conversation can join us on the THP community and discuss their experiences with PXG. And for those who do have a club champion locally, take a chance to go down and talk to them about PXG irons and the whole iron lineup. There's a good chance that one of these irons will fit your game well, and they have the ability to fit you in a way that's incredibly neutral, which is great. James, do you have any final comments for T or P from the 0311 lineup?
I think we would be remiss if we don't talk about the sound and the feel. And I
Fair
know
point.
that's a curveball on you here at the end of our recording, but I do think it's worth us talking about because, yeah, we're talking about a $400 per head iron, but I want to hear your opinion on the sound, particularly of the P, because we both got along with it a little bit better, and where you would place that.
Man, James is nodding his head for those who are listening and not watching. It's so hard for me to really represent my feelings, other than the fact that it just felt like a wonderful marriage between hand, head, and golf ball as soon as I started hitting them, which is a wonderful compliment to PXG, especially hitting indoors. You don't always get that experience. And for me, I was so comfortable hitting those irons. I felt like I was expecting good sound and good quality contact every time, especially with P.
And that's kind of why I wanted to put you on the spot with it. I think it's worth mentioning because with PXG, when we discuss it, we have to discuss price. You have to, because it's the thing that either draws people in or keeps people away. But there is a consistency across the 0311 lineup for sure in terms of sound and feel and feedback and just general consistency that is better than most at times. I'll put it that way. I'm not going to call anything best, anything worse, because I don't believe in that. But it stands out whenever you hit them. You hit the P, and from the first shot, that's why I was waiting for you to put it down so I could go hit it and see if I got the same sensation. And you do. And that's not saying the T's a slouch or the rest of the lineup, but it stands out. And I think that's a good thing for us to kind of close out on.
I love that. And I'm going to say once again, go hit these irons for yourselves. We would love to hear your feedback, whether it's in the comment section below here or on the THP community or on Twitter. We're both on social, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, subscribe to THP Golf or THP TV on YouTube. If you want to enjoy more content like this, we have a number of videos that are similar with other manufacturers. Please take the time to like the video if you did enjoy the content. That gives us an idea whether we are providing the content you're looking for. And again, I'm looking forward to doing another one soon. Thanks, James.